Well, the big news from Abu Dhabi on Friday in the World Championship Showdown is that it is pretty closely matched at the moment between Lando Norris in the McLaren and Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. We'll get onto that in a minute. Both of them looking good on light fuel and heavy fuel runs. Max has the advantage in top speed at the moment. It'll be interesting to see whether McLaren change that tomorrow. But the other big news was that Oscar Piastri had to sit out FP1, would you believe, in this, the most important race of his career so far. That's partly because inevitably the team does have to run by the regulations on 4 occasions a young driver, and obviously long before this came up as the finale, McLaren and presumably Oscar Piastri opted to do this in FP1. Now, on the face of it, there's quite a lot of logic there because FP1 in Abu Dhabi is run much earlier in the afternoon than FP3 qualifying or indeed the race. So there's not that much to be learnt in free practice 1. About 4 degrees difference in track temperature as it turned out. But the reality is, of course, that life can be very different. And Oscar Piastri, having come off that brilliant weekend in Qatar, which didn't result in a win, of course, but very, very fast, looking forward to continuing that momentum for the first time right in the sweet spot again in terms of his driving and getting the best from the car, suddenly had this abrupt halt to his momentum. Was there a solution to this? I don't know. For me, it would have been better for McLaren just to have taken some sort of penalty and not run Pato Award in Oscar's car in FP1. That's what I would have done. I don't know how much the financial penalty was, but I think it would have been worth it in terms of not very often does a driver have a chance to go into the last race with a chance of winning the World Championship, and with the momentum that Oscar has from Qatar. Now, whether there's more behind this decision, I guess we'll have to see. But the end result was that Oscar was actually a bit late out for FP2 as well. And whereas Lando Norris put in a really, really good lap on the soft tyre to be quickest in FP2, Oscar Piastri finished only 11th in FP2. That's not a great... I mean, in terms of learning about the car, they probably learned a bit about ride height, I would guess, from the Pato Award run, but not much else. And Oscar getting into the car cold, he was pretty quick straight out of the box, as you would expect. I mean, he knows the circuit, he's done sim runs, etc. But the only encouraging thing was his second run on what was effectively then scrubbed softs, which was a 23.8, which Lando matched with a 23.4. So whereas he was 0.7 slower on the new tyre, is about half a second slower on the scrub tyre. Not much consolation though. Tom Stallard saying, oh yeah, but you know, you did have a problem. I think it was at turn 6, so that's not a bad time on the scrub tyre. But in this, of all races, you shouldn't have to be trying to be encouraging to a driver like Oscar Piastri. It should be just wham, straight out there. Let's give this 100% to try and win this race and therefore the World Championship. But again, this reflects the situation in which McLaren find themselves, unable really to manage these 2 championship contenders going into this weekend. And as I say, almost unheard of, absolutely stupefying to see Oscar sitting on the pit wall on the radio in FP1 and actually yawning at the end of the session as well. I'm pretty sure he did find it quite boring as well. Roll on FP2 is probably all he was thinking. Anyway, having said all of that, let's have a look now at the McLaren and Red Bull runs. Max right on top of it from the start of FP1 going into FP2 as well. He was the first guy usually to get a quick time in on the soft tyre, and then in both sessions he was the first driver to switch to a fuel load and do runs with the hard tyre, and then in the second session the medium tyre. He did more laps with fuel in the car than anybody else today. He's got more information. There were no errors, no glitches. There were the usual little tweaks about how to improve the car here, a little bit of flap, what was it like, but no real criticism from Max over the radio in terms of the things we've seen before, like bouncing or lack of turn-in or lack of feel. It looks as if they're right there now, and they do have a significant top speed advantage, both with light fuel and heavy fuel. In light fuel, Max was doing 330 through the speed trap. Lando Norris 327 consistently. I mean, Lando quite quick, but I mean, that is a significant difference. And then in heavy fuel in the second session, FP2, obviously depends a little bit on the mode of engine mode they were running. Max around 311, 312, Lando Norris 305, 306. So the difference actually bigger on heavy fuel than it was on light fuel. Very similar in terms of lap time as well. Bearing in mind, Max was doing a much longer run and presumably had more fuel on board anyway at the beginning of the run. So yeah, very good day for both of them. It looks to be very quick. I would say at the moment the odds does favour Lando Norris. When he did go out to do the 23.0, which made him quickest in the session, Max had already done a 23.4, and GP was on the radio saying, Max, do you want to have another go? What do you feel? Or do you think we should just quickly get in and do some homework with the medium tyre on fuel? And Max said, I don't think we can learn much more. As if, yeah, of course I can go quicker, but we're not going to gain much by doing that. That was the impression that I got from that little bit of conversation. So I think Max could have gone a little bit quicker. Don't read into that too much, that 0.4 difference. Max looking very good. I'm not saying that the Red Bull's as quick as a McLaren around here, but it's not a big difference. And Lando Norris on occasion looking quite ragged, particularly in FP1, quite a few moments locking up as well, running wide. Oscar looked pretty good in the McLaren, wasn't complaining too much, playing around with front flap when he did get out in the car. The car is a very quick car around here, there's no doubt. As Mark Slade was saying in the build-up to this, the McLaren-Mercedes is the best package. But I think the surprising thing is how good the Red Bull is looking. George Russell right up there at the end of his soft tyre runs as well with Max, saying that he felt his car had picked up a little bit of feel with the change in wind direction. Classic George Russell comment, but basically matching Max's times and looking pretty good on fuel as well. So reasonably encouraging day for Mercedes, although Kimi Antonelli was not quite up to speed today and complaining of bouncing as well on the straight. But another big story really was what was going on with the likes of Oliver Behrman and the two Sauber Ferraris, and we can throw Esteban Ocon in there as well. All really quick today. In fact, Oliver Behrman completely blown away by how good his car felt. P4 for Haas Ferrari, 23.5 on the soft tyre. Nico Hülkenberg, 23.5 as well. Gabriel Bortoleto matching that. And Isaac Hadjar only a little bit away, 23.6 in the Racing Bulls. So very, very tight midfield at the moment. Fernando Alonso, 23.7. But where are the Ferraris? Charles Leclerc, 23.6, and obviously a difficult car again for Charles Leclerc. The Lewis Hamilton car, driven by Charles' brother, Junior, Arthur Leclerc in the first session, so it was a bit of a washout. And then Lewis not really able to do very much in FP2 either. He finished 14th. He did a 23.9 compared with Charles' 23.6. Neither of them quick time, so it was kind of moot, really. But Ferrari continuing to be in the trouble in which we saw them in Qatar. No real incidents, no real problems for anybody, no changes to the cars at all. This is the finale. Just lots of different drivers out there doing their thing in FP1. Anyway, we'll be doing the usual vid after qualifying tomorrow. Big thanks to Jetcraft, to OEM Exclusive, to RSC Watchers, and to Track Ninja, and to you, the viewer. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.